Good evening, everyone. This is the FY2027 budget hearing, the first one on April 13th. We have folks joining online. I see we have Councilmember Colon, Councilmember Smith online. Any other council members that we have online? And then in the room, we have Councilmember Warsnop and Councilmember Foe. So we do have quorum. We'll get this meeting started, this public hearing. So thanks, everyone. Welcome. The agenda is set. We are going to sort of walk through staff. We'll sort of review. We'll have a conversation about the budget and the significant changes in the budget sections. And so we will be breaking this up in terms of the overall budget, but we'll be doing sort of what you see: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 7 or so sections for today, and then next Monday on the 20th, we'll have additional sections that we'll touch on. And so, again, if anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to raise your hand if you're online. I'll be checking to try to make sure everyone's included, and then obviously in the room as well. For this intents and purposes, I think if you're a member of the public, just feel free to raise your hand, and I'll try to make sure we incorporate everybody for a meeting like this. Is a public hearing, obviously, and so your feedback, comments, questions are highly prioritized. Okay, so with that, we'll go to introduction and orientation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chelton, if you would please, if you could share the budget document and start with, well, you can stay here for right now, and then I'm going to have you go to the message and some background information. So as staff shared last week, we present to you a balanced proposed budget, and the staff team, as we do every year, put a lot of thought into this document and comments in that we received from our residents, and direction in that we've received over the last year or so from the mayor and council. We turn to our vision and commitment statements and things of that nature in formulating this proposed budget. The two things that I want to highlight, one being that we are proposing that the tax rate for real property tax, for operating tax, for business personal property tax, for emission and amusement tax, that all those rates remain unchanged, as well as the fee schedule as found in Chapter 23, I think it is, of the Town Code, that we're not proposing any changes to any fees in this proposed budget. As you'll hear from Mr. Jones shortly, as well as from department heads in discussing these various sections that we have on here tonight, we do have some significant changes that we're proposing. And I just want to go back to what we talked about last week for a minute. So, Mr. Chelton, if you can go to the budget message and go to the page that has the, I'll call it the red line inflationary graph. So right there, and that's page 13 of the PDF of the 421. If you can stay on that chart. So what this is showing is where we are growing more than the anticipated inflation amount. We are using a 3.8 number. Prior to this being published, domestic sources were saying 2.4. Now we're up to 3.5. Some global sources are saying that we should anticipate 4%, maybe 4.2. We think it's safe to say 3.8 at this point. And with all of this, we make our best projections on information that we know at the time. And that's what we do in presenting the budget. But you'll see that salaries, we're proposing an increase of 9.31% year over year. Benefits are 14.3%. Overtime, we're seeing a contraction in overtime. Contractual services, seeing an increase of 16.48. Operating expenditures near 15%. Other expenditures below inflation. Municipal buildings, that's rising above inflation to 6.24. Events rising, and grants being a less than 1% change year over year. And those are grants that the town provides to others, not grants that we receive. I will use this opportunity to share some good news. So when we last met, I mentioned that we may be receiving some significant funds from the state. That's been confirmed. We're looking at 1.275 for our projects. At a time when the state is having significant budget issues, pulling in 1.275. Now, they're earmarked for specific projects, but 1.275 is something that we should feel good about, and make sure that we thank those who made this happen. So we're feeling pretty good about that. Under this chart on this page, if you just go up a little bit, Mr. Shelton, these couple bullet points, I'd encourage everyone to take a few minutes over the next week or so to just get a snapshot of why these numbers are increasing. I think that's a benefit. So, Mr. Shelton, if you can go back to the table of contents then. And currently, I don't believe the hyperlinks have been put in yet. No, but we will get hyperlinks online here in the next few days. And so you'll be able to click on a particular line item, and that'll take you to that section of the budget. So all of section 1, just for kind of orient folks to the book, there's background information, policy information, information on the constant yield, the charter requirements, things of that nature. Section 2, and Mr. Jones, are you going to talk about section 2? So when we get there, he'll talk about that tonight as well as part of the orientation. That's the fund balance section and debt service section. In section 3, 5-year projections. And when we get there, I just want everyone to take a breath because you're going to see, oh, we're projecting deficits. Well, we've been projecting deficits for the last 10 years when we project out 5 years, because if we rely on PAYGO, same year money for projects, we would have a deficit. And the town has never been able to rely on PAYGO, where we bring in enough revenue to pay for operating and pay for projects. We manage to transfer funds from the general fund into projects because we have revenue net operating. We're very conservative, I think appropriately so, in our revenue projections. And then we do what we can throughout the year to reduce our expenditures. So in administering the budget, we work to have money left at the end of the year. However, as we've talked about in previous years, it's important to know that revenue net operating expenditures generally has been declining. Last year, we had a bump, and I think at least in part because we saw the uncertainty coming, and we did things like a hiring freeze. And we're like, well, let's stop. We're not sure what's going to happen. So that's what we'll talk about when we get there. And then in each section, I won't read through each one, but if we just go up a little bit, Mr. Shelton, and expand so people can see section 4 clearly there on the screen. And so, or section 5, it would probably be better. So in each of these budget sections, these are cost centers. And so you'll read about the mission and accomplishments, the objectives of the department, performance indicators, There's a budget overview, significant changes, and then we look at the major categories: the employee costs, contractual services, operating, and other operating. And so Mr. Jones is going to walk through, when we get to these sections, he'll walk through the number part, and then the department heads are going to be talking about their department, things that we look forward to in fiscal 27. I also think it's good to recognize that for those new to our process, the budget book itself is not adopted. This is all to illustrate. The budget itself is adopted by ordinance. It's about a 3-page ordinance, and then there's about 7 pages of attachments. And that's what's adopted. That's where you are saying, here's how much money in each of these major categories. And but we follow the book as illustrated, and changes to the budget. The town manager by charter has the authority to move money within a major category, but not across categories. That's up to the mayor and council to move money. We need their approval to move money from one major category to another. So what that means is, if I'm off on salaries in one department, I can make up salaries in another. But if we wanted to take salary money and buy supplies, we'd have to come back to the council and talk to the council about that. So that kind of orients you to the book. In the back, there's appendices, the copy of the state of the towns there, things of that nature. Lots of good background information. And so if there's questions on this part, I'll pause for those questions. Mr. Mayor. Your microphone, sir.
When is the budget? So first, thank you for that background and update. The question around, when is the budget sort of officially approved? Is there a timeline or deadline when that has to be done by?
Yes. So at the end of the month, I believe it's April 27th, we'll be looking for introduction of the ordinance. On the following Monday, there would be a public hearing on the tax rates. And then is it 2 weeks just after that? So it's like the 18th or 19th, or it's May 18th. So May 18th, we'd be looking for adoption because we have to report to the county what our tax rates would be. And at some point, we do have to clean up some charter language, because the charter says the budget has to be passed by the end of June, or be adopted by the end of June. And that doesn't work for how the processes are today in terms of reporting the tax rates and that sort of thing. Any other questions, sir? And I'm looking online to see if there's any hands up. And I don't see any hands raised, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in doubt of something here. Now, we are now debating on 2007 financial fiscal year. Let me say this, 2025, 2026. And sometime I said this for a long time. All the contract that the town manager, they are awarding to people. We don't know who won this contract. We don't know how much they're giving these people the contract. And we don't have no feedback. I said this 2 years back. Whenever they give a contract to any entity, we have to know how much the contract cost, who won this contract. They have to make this in written and send it to each of the council, mayor and council member, so that we can study this contract and see those who won this contract. But the town manager is not doing this. He will just come and explain fiscal year 2025, 2026, this, that. Who won this contract? Who are you issuing this contract to? Who are the people who are getting this contract? We don't know. So this is my confusion here. So, Mr. Mayor, I want
Yeah.
the town manager to clarify this for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Town manager, you want to take that?
Yes, council member, thank you for your question. Actually, the council approves, according to the charter, every contract in excess of $20,000. We bring every contract to this body over $20,000, and the council authorizes whether or not we can move forward. And we have those votes recorded in the minutes. So we seek that authorization, and we brief the council. If there's particular documents you would like to see, we can make documents available to you. Just let us know which ones you'd like to see.
Okay, thank you. All the contract that we vote for them, approve it. But after doing that, send the documentation to each one of the council member and the mayor in the mail so that we ourselves can study this thing and know who won this contract, what amount of contract was given, the amount of money was given into these people in the contract. Because we are approving the money. But we don't know how much you pay in these contractors. So this is what confused me here. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, I would just to that point. So I think what the town manager, what he laid out is the money can't be, money can't transfer unless it's approved by the council. That's over $20,000 or more. And so you'll see it typically come up. It'll be for contractor X for this amount, typically with a contingency as well added onto it. And so we all have the awareness before we vote on it, whether or not we want to approve the funds for a particular contract. Now, if your question is around after a contract has been awarded, sort of the performance of the contract, I think that's a different conversation that we can think through. I don't personally agree that the council should be sort of micromanaging every single contract that's happened. I think our responsibility is to make sure that the money is allotted to for a particular purpose. If it's over a dollar amount of $20,000, and then if we feel like we're not getting the services, then we can have a conversation there. If the town staff feel like issues are happening, there have been instances where they've come back in and asked for another reauthorization and have to explain why that is the case because whatever factors have come up. And so happy to have a conversation and thinking about how we can maybe how we can think or get a better handle on some of the contracts. But the goal is to do it before the money is allotted, right? And not necessarily after the fact. And so it's even more important that before we make votes that, ask any questions that we may have on a particular contract in terms of what the money is going to be used for or who the vendor is themselves and what project it's supporting. But and it's all done by motion resolution. And so, we can go back in and look at all the votes that we have voted for particular things. But
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
And then just
Mr.
to that,
Mhm.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as we look through now, here's an opportunity as we think about sort of overall what the budget is for any individual particular area. Just note that every dollar here is not necessarily for contracts. We've talked about it before. The more than half of the cost of the budget is for personnel and salaries. And so when we talk about next meeting, where we cover a lot of the CIP improvement projects, those are primarily money going to pay for vendors to provide services and build projects. But every part of the budget isn't necessarily contracts. So definitely let's keep this question for next week as well. And I encourage you to review the budget book. If you have questions on particular projects, you can look at that. And if you have questions in terms of how much they cost, we can have that conversation as well.
Well, they have the book. We don't have the book. But what I'm saying, all these contracts that we are approving, have any one of us, they ask us to go and inspect the project that we approve to see this is the place where we approve for this money. That is not happening. We don't know if the people are working on the project or they will just approve the money. We don't know where they are working. This is the problem. That's why I'm confused. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
Yeah, I would just say that's not necessarily our job to like go in and micromanage where a project is. Um, so let's have a conversation about it. Happy to have a conversation with you offline about that. But um, you know, it's the town. I'll put it like this: if there's a project that you feel that is not being done as appropriate, like please let me know, let the town manager know, and we're happy to sort of expect it. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's your responsibility to like go in and make sure that the vendor follow through on like light placements or speed bumps that may come in your particular ward. That's just not necessarily the setup. So, but let's have a conversation about it because I think we can. There's a discussion to be had. But I appreciate the comment and question. Good evening. Okay, any other comments from anyone, public or council on the introduction, sort of like the layout? Um, for those in person, there are fancy budget books that staff put together that lay out everything. The only other thing I would say is I know as we move through, each section has a significant changes document or like a page, which was a change for maybe it's like last year or 2 years ago. That I know it's been helpful for me to sort of give an overview of what has materially changed from the previous year to this year. And so that's always a good place to sort of look in to see, since a lot of the, you know, every particular budget area may not have a major change. And so that's a good place to start if you have any questions or comments. Okay. So with that, I guess the next is section. So agenda item number 2, which is we'll break down so the many sections, is just the overview of significant changes by budget section. So how do we want to do this? Director, Deputy Director, are you going to go through this in terms of each individual area? So we should start with.
Yeah, so if we could start at section 2, I just want to briefly go over the debt service page and the fund balance sheet.
Okay.
Mr. Shelton, if you actually go, yep, back a couple pages.
Yeah, page 55, I believe. Yeah.
So that's the debt service page that he has up first. Well, Mr. Shelton, currently we're looking at the town seal. No, I'm showing everyone. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the first place I'd like to start with is at the top, and that would be the accessible base. We got these figures from the state. So we have an accessible base residential amount of 589 million. On the Calvert track portion for the residential, we have an amount of 64 million. The accessible base for the commercial and industrial, that is at 390 million. And then on the TIF side, we have a total of 91 million. One of the major points of emphasis on this sheet that I'd like to highlight is the fiscal year 2026 debt service payments. That total is 170,000. In the previous fiscal year, we had an additional loan that was about $300,000 that we paid off, well, paying off in the current fiscal year. So for fiscal year 27, those debt service payments come down by 300,000. Additionally, if we look down at the fiscal year 27 long-term debt, you'll see the 2 outstanding loans that we do have. We have a CDA loan, 15-year and a 30-year. And at the end of fiscal year 27, the principal loan balance amount will be 367,000. So we've been doing a great job in paying down this debt. And yeah, we have the 15-year that matures in fiscal year 28, and the 30-year, that one will mature in 2031. Any questions on the debt service page? All right.
I have a oh, go ahead,
Oh, sure.
Councilman. Um, so one, every year, can you explain to me the TIF,
Sure.
the TIF financing, and how best to look at this? We separate out the accessible base for the Calvert track
Mm-hmm.
because it does not factor into the town's overall like tax accessible base. And then um, the town won't get access to that accessible base until the TIF financing debt service is paid off, which is for the bridge, correct?
Yes, that's for the bridge.
We're on year how many until the bridge is paid off?
I think 2030, is it 2 or 7? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What was the cost of the bridge? It was 16 or 17 million, wasn't it? I mean, a high number.
Yeah, so the county has funds that they put forward as well. Yes, but the county's funds are being paid back by the residents and, well, the property owners. So everyone's paying an extra fee to pay back the money that the county fronted. The town, we have foregone taxes, a portion of our taxes, to be able to pay for it. Yes, yes, and the payments are about 400,000 a year.
Pardon me, pardon me, pardon me. Pardon me. This is about what percentage of our budget?
What the loan payments?
The debt we're carrying.
The debt?
You said we're looking at, I mean, if we were to take that amount you're talking about, that at the bottom, 367,500.
Let me do a quick math.
That's about what ballpark?
Because our projected
3%, something like that.
is at 13.
400,000.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, 2.8%.
Do you have another question?
That's all I have.
Councilmember Moore?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. On the bridge repayments, so that doesn't show up here as debt because it is financed in a different way. That's what you're saying. Okay. And so that's kind of an automatic payment because we're not getting that tax base. Okay.
Mr. Shelton, if you can show the top part of this page. Thank you. So the value of the Calvert tracks on the far right, and then so there's revenue coming in, but before it flows into the operating budget or become available, we first have to pay that $400,000 payment.
Yeah, I think we're still one of the few municipalities that are paying off of major infrastructure in the county, bridges, tunnels. All right. One day, maybe we'll get some relief. That's helpful. The other question around the long-term debt. So we've been paying off the 30-year CDA, I guess aggressively since it's only 3 years later than the 15-year loan.
If you can go down, oh, you already did it. All right, thanks. So in terms of this, in 2018, I think it was, we went through a defeasance process where we actually used loan proceeds to pay down the bonds. And this is bonded debt. So the folks that purchase those bonds are entitled to their end of the deal in terms of their return. And so we weren't able to just pay everything down early. we went through this process. But we went from, and there's a chart in the budget, we went from about $3 million in debt to where we are today with a total debt payments. If you go down a little bit further on this page, keep going, keep going. So right there. So we owe $367,500. That's the balance of the town's debt. And so 10 years ago, that was 3 million. So I think we've done a good job and still managed to pull off projects. And correct.
We've retired a ballpark 90% of the debt within 8 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I look forward to retiring this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so a few more years, we'll get this done.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions on the debt service? Okay. Let's-
Great. So the next page I'd like to highlight would be the next one, which shows the fund balances. And if you could scroll down to the fiscal year 27 activity. Thank you. So in the general fund, we have a number of different transfers to various funds. The first is the debt service reserve fund. We're transferring 170,000 to that fund. This is the fund that we make our debt service payments from. We have to the general fund. From the general fund to CIP. We have $200,000 in matching grant revenue that we're transferring, as well as about 1.3 million. So a total of 1.5 million we're transferring from the general fund to CIP to fund projects. We have about $200,000 that we're transferring from the general fund to the economic development fund. $50,000 we're transferring to the health and wellness fund, and $100,000 transferring from the general fund to the community development fund. One thing I'd like to highlight here is this year we're not having to transfer any money to the operating budget, which is a good thing. We're able to provide a balanced budget without having to rely on transfers. So moving in the right direction there.
And just for comparison, the current year, we had brought $140,000 into the operating budget. The previous year, we brought 500,000 into the operating budget. And so this is a really good step, and our projections show that we'll be able to continue this.
And if there are any questions regarding the fund balance, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is this where we're seeing either in the well, I was thinking it might be in the community development fund. Is that where the money is going that the town is going to be putting money to assist Company 7 with their grant?
Yes.
That with the federal grant that they received.
Yes. So in community development, if you go up to the blue line, no need to move the screen, Mr. Shelton. So the projected fund balances as of June 30, 2026. Right. Community development, we're projecting we're going to have 55,000 remaining there.
Okay.
We're adding the 100, and that's to set up this line of credit for number 7. And then we're projecting 140 in expenditures total. Now, while we'll be getting back that 100, Mr. Jones explained to me for accounting purposes, we have to show it's being completely expended, and then we'd book the revenue back in.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions on the fund balances?
If I can just add one thing, if you then look at the blue line at the bottom of the page, projected fund balance is June 30, 2027. So after all the activities happen over the next fiscal year, we're saying we're going to have 3.1 in the general fund, still have the 271 in OPEB. That's where we've been squirreling some money away to pay for long-term liability. And then the 15 in community development. And then we would still have significant money in economic development. We're projecting 123 expenditures in economic development next year. Mr. Jones, can you talk about the other funds there? So I'm up to economic development. What's the next column there, Mr.
Sure,
Jones?
yes. The next is the Health and Wellness Fund. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be transferring 50 in from the general fund, and then we're expecting a slight refund of about 16,000. So that will have us at a total of 84,000 at the end of the fiscal year. The TIF, Special Revenue Fund, where we pay TIF out of, we have 404,000 allocated there, and then we'll make our payments out of there, ending with a 346,000 balance. The Debt Service Reserve Fund, where we pay our debt service out of, we're transferring the 170 and the payments 170. We'll also have some the real property TIF taxes, which were shown on the debt service page, that will also go into that fund. And we'll have a total ending balance there of 188,000. And then the last column is the CIP fund. This is where we pay CIP expenditures out of, and we'll have an ending balance of 169,000 at the end of fiscal year 27.
That's if all projects move forward on time.
Okay.
And that's without the 1.275 that we got confirmation on today that we'll be getting from the state
Okay.
for our projects.
Okay.
So that's not in here. Because when we put this together, we only go by the funds where we have award letters or
Correct.
legislation. It's important to maintain these different balances. You never want to zero these out. If something were to happen and our revenues dry up, do we have some extra money for healthcare? Do we have some extra money without dipping into our reserves? So
Okay.
it's good conservative budgeting and finance policy to make sure we're carrying some cash balances. So if things go bad, we can still pay our bills.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, if I may, I do have one question.
Sure.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Listician, Ms. Barnes, I mean, the one number I am looking at is, and I'm just wondering if I could get a better understanding about where it lies in relation to how other municipalities are approaching this. And that would be on the OPEB committed, the 271, 547. Is this an amount that's on par with others are doing? Is this something, are we trying to squirrel more away? Or is this an amount that with everything we're looking at, this is, the amount that we can squirrel away?
So
not so much that we would like to squirrel away, but we can squirrel away, which I was wondering which would it be.
So this is what we've been able to squirrel away.
Okay.
I believe the audit report identified a long-term liability a lot higher than this. And so this is new to the town. I'll say that we're having any funds here. That was something we started, I think, in 2018, 2019, where we actually created this. And the way we've done this, there's two ways, and Mr. Jones, correct me if I got any of this wrong, but there's two ways you can save TIF fund or OPEB funds. And one is the way we're doing it, which is just a subset of our general fund. The other is to really set up an OPEB fund. that you do it through legislation, and any money you put in there, you cannot touch. So if the electricity needs paid and you don't have funds for it, you wouldn't be able to touch it. The way we've done it is we're designating it for OPEB, but the town still has access to those funds for other purposes if we need to. And in the past, we've transferred funds out of OPEB and then we put it right back in the following year. But that allowed us flexibility. So I think we're doing it the right way for Riverdale Park. In terms of adding additional funds here, that's a long-term goal. I shared with the mayor before the meeting where we're working with our healthcare provider. We're due a rebate. We're questioning the size of the rebate because we're not following their math, where they're actually saying we'll get more than we think we should. And so we want to make sure that number before we get a check. But our recommendation will be if we get that rebate, and regardless of the amount, that we put it here in OPEB. And because we do want to grow that over time, we really should grow this number to between 750,000 and $1 million total. Yeah. You're going to want to have long term. You're going to want this number to be about 750,000 to $1 million.
Can you explain what it stands for and what it's
Other post-employment benefits? And
the record? Yes,
and there's a description of all the different funds in the budget book under policy section. And so if we have more employees working their full career here and retiring with 20 years, I think you have to be here at least 20 years, then we offer a healthcare benefit. It's a single person plan, and the individuals would actually go and get their own plan, but we would pay what we would otherwise be paying for a single plan to reimburse them for that benefit. And it's not the most generous plan. There are other municipalities that are offering much more generous healthcare benefits for their retirees than what we offer. But with what we offer, we should have a long-term goal. By long-term, I'm saying in 10 years. In 10 years, you need to have 750 to $1 million sitting here. 1,000. Correct. Well, no, I would say 750,000 in future dollars. Yeah. I would be comfortable if you, and Mr. Jones, are you thinking the same?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I would agree with that.
Yeah. And because there's so many variables with retirees, and if someone goes the full 20 years, if they don't, and if they, and it's only up until you're Medicare eligible. And so age becomes a factor in there in terms of looking at your employee census, as well as if you get reemployed and you accept healthcare from someone else, then you're not eligible for this. So there's a lot of variables in here that limit the liability of the town. But then at some point, the town may want to have a conversation about whether or not you want a more generous retiree healthcare offering. But based upon what we currently offer, I'd be, from my perspective, looking at this and looking at the numbers, if you had 750 to $1 million in this fund, and you just let it sit there, so when you have had folks retiring, you had a place to charge it to, I think you'd be okay.
Not to, and then just I think quickly, you mentioned, are there limitations in terms of how much we can put into it? Like, are we capped in a particular year?
No, sir.
Okay. And then the other would be, it might be helpful for, is there a cliff that we're reaching where we have, say we had 15, employees that are 18 years in, that we know that they'll be eligible in the short term, that we need to maybe reconsider. That might be helpful to know, because I hear you on the 750 to $1 million makes sense. We are way below that. And is it we have 3 years, 5 years before we probably need to get those funds, or is that timeline shorter? Um, I think would be helpful understanding because 20 years is a lot, but I know there are members that are already at 20 or close to 20. So
Yes, so we'll put together some numbers for you. I don't anticipate a run on this, if you will. There are some municipalities not far from us that my guess from looking through their budgets, they're paying retiree healthcare, whatever they're paying, out of their current operating funds. And that's what Riverdale Park needs to avoid.
Part of the reason why I bring this up is because we want to, as much as we can, avoid doing this out of operating funds. Especially for future councils. We don't, this is something we don't want to put a burden on them on. I think it's good to understand, and it's good to understand, how an employee's career is going here, and whether it's something that's gonna, that career is gonna sunset here, or may they go somewhere else. However it goes, I think that's really something that if we're able to stay on top of it, and then allow future councils flexibility in terms of whatever may come in the future, as well as thinking about in the overall presentation of what when an employee comes in, what does the town offer in terms, for this employee to work for the town. Part of it being, the environment they're working in and the physical structure they're working in, the equipment they're being afforded to work with, what the town will afford them in training to allow them to develop and grow, as far as they can go. That's when you really look at that becomes then part of that matrix. Besides what we're offering in salary and benefits and things, when you look at this overall, call it a matrix of what being an employee here does, and what do we as a municipality want to be able to do for the employees who work here, is such that it's fair and competitive, and at the same time that as a body we're looking out into the future to make sure that costs then don't become at some point overwhelming for a future body.
well said. Well said. Okay. Anything else that you wanted to hit on, Deputy Director Jones?
That's all I have for fund balance. The next item I wanted to cover briefly was the 5-year projections on page 59. So the 5-year projections that we have here, we use these as a means of to help us with decision making, and they are based on the fiscal year 2027 projected budget. Right now, we do have a balanced budget. As Town Manager Listician mentioned earlier, we are projecting a future where we will have some imbalances. The revenues are projected to grow from 3.1 million in fiscal year 27 up to 16 million by fiscal year 2032. This will be primarily driven by the local tax growth. And we do have a notable increase in 2032.
And well, I'll explain our rational basis there.
Yeah.
The reason why we think that will happen, we think that we'll have less uncertainty in the years probably starting in 29. And we think that some of the projects, the multifamily housing projects that have been long delayed, will be substantially complete in 2032 in Riverdale Park Station. So that happens. We see redevelopment around the purple line. So 2032, maybe into 2033, there should be sizable changes in the real property tax base. And a lot depends on what happens with the federal government in terms of providing certainty. What happens with the economy. But these are at least the Riverdale Park Station multifamily properties. They've been long discussed and planned. And it's our understanding that the developer is still committed to moving forward with those two large multifamily properties. We're also going to by then have the new properties by the Purple Line Station on River Road that the university has talked to us about. We're going to have some other infill development in that time as well. So we do think that you would have 6% over an annual growth. So if you're experiencing 4% in increase in values and some small infill, then you would have 6%, at least 6% over that in terms of the new development that should come online about that time. And obviously we'll keep an eye on that and next year update it again, and maybe it gets kicked further out as a cautionary tale. I don't think it happens any sooner. Correct. I think Paul, Gentry, Jessica, and I were all on the same page that we're not going to see that type of development
Completed.
Substantially complete.
Yeah.
And that's the term that the state tax authorities use. The building has to be substantially complete in order to be on the tax rolls.
Right.
And we don't see that happening until fiscal 2032.
Okay.
The only thing in this projection is that I'm wondering where we would put it is around, there's no wood to knock on, but if we do end up getting the old Army Reserve base transferred over and the process, we know that that's going to take a substantial amount of funds to refurbish and redevelop it the way we've envisioned. And obviously some of that would have to come from federal, state grants. But I'm assuming the town would also have to produce or put money into that. What area in terms of the expenditures would that sort of fall into? Was that the town hall building line item for expenditure, or is that different?
No. So this is all operating. So it would be CIP. And so from staff's perspective, while I think it will happen, until it does, I don't think we should count on that happening. I do think it's important that we begin discussions with MNC PPC over the stormwater project. That would, at least from initial discussions with the then current council, was about having about 2.5 acres of that land to be a surge area for stormwater, and removing that macadam and that sort of thing. So I think MNC PPC would be a good partner to talk to about that, because we're also talking about having it looking like a park and have a nice little walking trail around it and all that. But the county, the state, and the federal government are going to have to play a significant role in that. And then in terms of the structure itself, if that were to happen, then that council would have to look at some bonded debt, at least initially, maybe short term, to make that happen. And then you have to ask, well, then what becomes of these properties here? and can you generate enough from the sale of these properties to renovate that property? And because you do have a good asset here. We just renovated these. We're finishing the parking lot next door. But we're very close to a Purple Line station. This land is valuable. And so when we get to that point, the council will have to have a discussion about what is it that we're going to do with this asset as we renovate that building. And then there's going to be a gap there, but the question is going to be how much of a gap. And that's when you'd be looking at it, maybe a 15 or 20-year note to keep it manageable.
I mean, it's something that will have, there's a myriad of options with that development, and then how everything evolves within town, be it down here or other properties that the town has, in terms of what can be done. And it's going to be, probably future councils will be looking at that and trying to figure it out. And it's probably going to, there are going to be a lot of factors that are going to be probably weighing in at that time. Some that we could probably, speculate on now and be fairly correct about. And then there might be some that just come out of the blue. But it's the fact that, we're in this position right now to allow us to move forward on the old Army Reserve building, and then to be able to have assets and be able to put money forward, because that's what's going to be able to help us drive when we're going to county, going to the state, going to whoever's District 4, if it's still District 4 at that point, congressional representatives, senators, for funding to help on that project. So,
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at the rate of growth in revenue projections for the automated safety programs. Am I reading this correctly that by 2032, we expect the revenue from that to have dropped by 1.5%? I get that that's a percentage of our percentage drop year over year. I'm not good enough to map to figure that out. But I'm just wondering if someone could speak to what that says about the efficacy of the program if we're only projecting that much of a drop over, however many years since we've implemented the program.
I can address that, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
This is staff's best calculation to live up to our goals. We want to see it fall. We want people to comply with traffic laws. Earlier today, I had a vehicle pass me on a town road. Maybe I was driving too slowly. So hopefully people comply. Looking out 5 years, we're holding on to that, saying that hopefully people comply. And whether they do, we'll update those numbers next year and see what comes in each of the subsequent years.
I hear you, Mr. Town Manager. I don't think that speaks to the question, though. We're seeing, staff's best projection is that by 2030, we'll have seen across 4 or 5 years, however you want to count it,
Well,
0.5 reduction in that revenue, and then that same amount the following 2 years. That would tell me, I know I said 1.5 earlier, but I missed a decimal point there, so that's far less than that. What that tells me is that staff's best projection is that this is not going to fall and this program is not effective.
I don't think my professional opinion, it's not a correlation between the whether or not a particular driver chooses to go the speed limit because of the deterrence of an automated enforcement program and whether or not a different driver violates the speed limit or violates whatever law is being regulated. I don't think there's a direct correlation.
I don't think so either, but we're not looking at numbers for direct drivers. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've been down this path, on my opinion, on this issue several times before. And I think, it'll go a predictable direction. But these projections seem to validate the concerns that I've been expressing over this for years, that, at best, the efficacy of this program is immeasurable. And to the extent it is measurable, it doesn't create much of a difference other than on our revenue line. And I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Mayor, quick
Councilmember, yes.
On page 60, just curious, for fiscal year 2028, there are a few categories where the growth rate is at a certain level and then several of them drop for the subsequent years, like the police services and contractual services, some other categories. I was just wondering what went into that.
Mr. Jones, you want to?
So when we put together the 5-year projections, it's really just our best estimate. And for instance, the weather response services, that one, we only put 2% because we increased it so much from 26 to 27 in response to the storm. So we figured we would only go up maybe 2% for that one, and then go back to the 3.5% that we had projected out prior to. Let's see which other ones.
Mr. Chelton, if you could lower this down a little bit further. No, the other way, so we can see the other categories that the council member was asking about. What other categories were you asking about? Police services?
That is the town building police
Town
services.
building.
Oh,
police
yes.
services.
Yes.
So, and these are essentially the 3.5% over the previous years.
Correct.
So there's still, from the year before, there's still an increase of monies.
Correct.
So,
Okay. Any other comments on the 5-year projections?
other than I appreciate seeing him, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's a best guess project. I think it'd be curious if we took we've lived 5 years in the past and sort of seen where we were, what we projected, and sort of where we landed, and that difference. Obviously, in some ways, if you would have been able to predict the pandemic, so these cataclysmic things that happen obviously impact us, wars and all that, but it's still a good exercise to see. And if there are particular things that we know over time, we can sort of plan for and hope for, and other things that we'll just sort of see what it looks like over time.
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chelton, if you can move this to the bottom of this page. All right, so I just want to focus in on this. So total operating expenditures across the fiscal years 27, we're saying 13.1, and out to 16.6. Now, if you remember revenue at the top of the page,
Yeah.
We were saying 15.99.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying that in 5 years, if these numbers hold true, your $700,000 deficit that you would have to close in that fiscal year.
Yeah. So I was just
Now that's without adding in any pay-go.
right.
And again, we haven't been to the point where we're able to have pay-go. So you're starting with deficits, but next year, so if you take out the $600,000 pay-go, we're saying, well, as the staff sit down to look at this budget, so when we start budget work for fiscal 28, which we start that in August, months before we come and talk to the council about it, we already know that we have to close for $112,000. right off the bat. We're
Okay.
based on our projections, we're going into it saying we got to figure out $112,000 deficit, and then it grows as years go out, and but we've managed to solve for those like municipalities across the country do every year.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move forward.
Okay, so next is going to be the revenue and expenditure budget overview sheet. That's the next page, page 61. So here we do have a balanced budget, that total being $13,122,142. If you look at the largest revenue source is the local taxes at 70%. We also have the automated safety programs, which makes up 23.57% of the revenue. And then we have, licenses and permits, administrative fees, fines and forfeitures, reimbursements, other revenues, and intergovernmental revenues. On the expenditure side, the largest percentages that we have here, as the mayor and Mr. Lustician have mentioned, is salaries, benefits, and overtime. Salaries and wages is at 43%, benefits 23%. Contractual services, that is about 17% of the operating budget, and then the operating expenditures are 10%. So that covers pretty much just the major categories. And then as we move forward, we will go into each of the cost centers, which covers the salaries, benefits, overtime, and all of the individual expenditure line items there.
So we're ready to go into the cost centers then?
Yes, if there's no questions.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none. Let's go to the first cost center is the mayor and council, right? Section 4.
Good evening. I'm going to cover the significant changes in the mayor and council's cost center. There are no significant changes in the salaries cost center. The benefits, there is a small decrease, and that's related to workers' compensation costs, which are projected to decrease by 12%. So you'll see that in each cost center impacting the benefits item. The major change in the mayor and council's cost center is due to the 2027 elections. So under operating expenditures, you'll see a percentage increase. That is a $35,000, which has been budgeted for the FY 2027 budget. This is the same as what was budgeted in fiscal year 2025. And then the only other, and again, very minor change under other operating expenditures, there was a slight increase in the child care reimbursement line item. This item had not been increased in many years, and with a potential for new council members coming on, or even remaining council members who may be interested in utilizing the child care reimbursement, we thought it was prudent to make that increase at this time. So that covers the significant changes for the mayor and council. If you get into the budget overview page, obviously there's really no change in the head count, and the major changes were already covered when I discussed the significant changes for the mayor and council's cost center. Are there any questions or concerns? It is nice.
No, that makes sense. We don't anticipate any additional like higher election costs compared to 2 years ago.
I don't believe so. The Board of Elections did discuss this topic, and they were content with keeping the amount the same as they had for 2025. There may be a different distribution of the expenses, I would say, but it should not exceed, and we haven't in many years exceeded the budgeted amount for the town elections.
Okay. I know early voting is now a thing. So,
Yeah. So there might be a slight increase in the cost for election judges, for example, or the number of election judges that might be needed because of early voting. But it was very successful in 2025. So I anticipate the board will be interested in continuing that into 2027.
okay, thank you. Any other questions on the mayor and council section?
Director Barnes?
Yep.
I don't even know if this is the appropriate venue for this, so I don't want to
Sure.
spend too much time on it. But if we ever considered off-site voting, early voting, potentially a farmer's market voting, I just wonder if that would drive up costs potentially, or is that logistically not something that we could consider?
Sure, those are all things that the board has discussed over time. I think we've mentioned in previous mayor and council meetings, the board will be bringing some updates to the elections manual, but those are all things that would require a change in the town code. But there's certainly things that the town can consider doing. Yep, certainly.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to administrative services.
So moving into administrative services, talking about the significant changes in the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. Just speaking generally for the entire budget, you'll see a cost of living increase across the board of a 2.5%. There will also be a continuation of the merit step increases, which are included in the approved pay plan, which was in the, I think it's the first or second section of the budget. So those are changes you will see throughout the budget in each cost center. The change for administrative services reflects the communications manager being a full-time position. So last year, it was only budgeted from January on. So this is for the full year. Also, to simplify how we account for positions, the special projects coordinator, which was split between other departments, has been moved completely to the administrative services cost center. And then my colleague, Director Shelton, will also talk about how we're handling the part-time events coordinator position that's been consolidated into a different position that will be in within his cost center. As it relates to the benefits, the entire budget will show a 10% increase in health insurance rates. So it'll be a little bit different in each cost center based on the enrollment levels, but that is an increase that the town experienced or will experience in 2027. As salaries increase, you'll see personnel related expenditures that increase as well, with right in line with the salary adjustments. And again, the workers' compensation costs across the board are projected to decrease by about 12%. There are no significant changes in overtime premiums. There is a slight increase in contractual services, and that's anticipating different rates for a new town attorney. If you recall, our previous town attorney was with us for many years, and there were no changes in rates. So we anticipate that a new town attorney will likely have a higher rate. The 15% increase under operating expenditures is specifically in the line item related to cable, camera and cable operations. We've had requests for additional meetings to have cable, or at least the capability of virtual and hybrid meetings. So we're anticipating that in fiscal year 2027. And then there's a very minor increase in the other operating expenditures, and we anticipate that a new website is going to bring some increase in the hosting and maintenance costs. So we're just anticipating those operational costs that'll be associated with the CIP project that we'll talk about next week. And so that concludes the significant changes for fiscal year 2027 in administrative services. Are there any questions or concerns?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember?
I just wondered, is there anywhere where we have the cost of 2.5% cost of living adjustment? I don't know. Is it stated anywhere? I'm not seeing it directly. I just wonder what that is staff-wide.
Mr. Jones, can you address how much the 2.5 is? And do you want that on the current staff?
Yeah, I mean, what we're projecting for next year, and this doesn't have to be a now. I would just like to see data on what 3% looks like, what 3.5% looks like, just to, in the face of inflation, what those would look like and what that would drive the budget.
Sure.
Because it doesn't have to be right now
I can
either.
get you that information.
All right, thank you,
And
sir.
if you look at the salary
Yeah,
amount, then if you take 2.5 off of that.
I'm
am I
not a
doing that
math
right, Mr.
teacher.
Jones? But if we take the total projected salary for fiscal 27 and multiply that by 97.5, that would be without the. Yeah,
The only thing with that calculation too is the defined benefits are also based on that increase as well. So everything.
well,
the-
in terms of the
Yeah.
benefit cost and
Mhm.
everything. Yeah, but we will get you a number. I think it was like, no, I better not say. I'm pretty good at remembering numbers. I'll wait for Mr. Jones to do the calculation.
The idea being you'd like to know if an increase in the COLA, what the impact would be for the overall budget.
Absolutely. I just see a wide range of variety and predictions of inflation, and I just want to be able to understand the impact budget-wise that an increased COLA might be.
And so, Mr. Mayor, if we can talk about just employee cost for a minute.
Sure.
So the COLA changes the pay range plan. So in the budget book, in the first or second section, there's a pay range plan. And that overall plan is 2.5% greater. So every grade and step is 2.5% greater than the current grade and step. But employees have the opportunity, if they do good work, they can get a merit step increase of is it now 2 to 2.5, Mr. Jones?
Yes, 2 to 2.5.
Yeah, there used to be 1.5% that they could get, but now they can get from 2 to 2.5. So employees that depending on where they are on the pay range plan, have the opportunity to get up to 2 or 2.5%. So it could be as high as a 5% increase, which puts you ahead of inflation.
So you like to look at those two in correspondence together as the benefit as a whole?
Yes.
Okay.
And from a salary administration perspective, an employee has an opportunity to get 4.5 to 5%.
Okay.
Which is above projected inflation. Is it high enough above projected inflation? That's open for discussion and debate. What we came up with was, and looking at what others are doing as well, staying competitive. I think the 2.5 keeps us competitive.
Right on.
And I think it's something that we can afford. I mean, yeah. I have other concerns overall about employees in terms of not just competitive, but this, as we've discussed in other settings, this is a high cost area.
Yeah.
And can people afford to reside here or even near here? And a couple years ago, you recall where we had employees that were making full-time employees making $30,000.
Yeah.
And I think it was pre-COVID, we said, well, no, we're going to have a minimum salary of $40,000. And now all those folks are now making in the 50s based upon the COLA, and now that's still low. That's still low. And when you look at the start pay of a police officer in the current year, it's $63,000. And that's low. And so we'd be taking that up by 2.5%. And but it's competitive for those around us when we first start. And then we have been working to address the outer years. And as you move up in ranks, to make sure we're staying competitive there as well. But we'll get you the numbers.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's go to financial services.
So I will be covering finance services as well as employee services, as they're kind of intertwined as far as the significant changes are concerned. So in finance services for the salaries, we kind of are, with employee services, we're kind of moving a few parts. Um, the overall count isn't changing much. We're just moving some positions from finance services over to employee services. So the 27 budget does reflect the finance manager position for a full year. It was only partially funded for fiscal year 26. So this resulted in some prior year salary savings. Additionally, we are removing the 1/3 administrative support. Um, and this is going to administrative services, as Director Barnes mentioned. And this also excludes the Finance and Employee Services Director and the Finance Employee Services Coordinator. Those two positions are moving fully over to Finance Services. We had both of those positions, half in finance, half in employee services. And just to make things easier, we're going to have those positions strictly over there. Director Barnes also mentioned the 2.5% COLA that is also reflected here. So the salaries are going down 17%, but again, it's not really going down. We're just moving those positions to employee services. Benefits as well. When we move those positions, the benefits go down 16%. She also mentioned the 10% increase in health insurance that is reflected here, as well as the workers' comp projection, which is down 12%. The only other significant change is in the operating expenditures. Here we have increased for the computer and software category. This is updated to reflect the new finance software subscription. And if there are no questions, I'll move ahead to employee services significant changes.
The software change, I think I don't have a significant one in my book, but I can see it here. The software changes that you're doing, these are like yearly subscription fees that you're talking about?
Yeah. So there's going to be the initial amount that we have to pay, and then it'll just be an annual subscription.
Got it. You're getting out of Excel? Just gonna
Yeah,
you get real software.
Trying to upgrade a little bit.
Good for you.
And it's a change to our approach because in the past, when we've done upgrades, we've done software that we would purchase and implement and keep everything local. Going to a subscription service is how things are done.
Yeah.
It's still gives me pause as a dinosaur. But we'll make sure we vet that carefully and bring good information to the council.
Okay, thank you. Software as a service. We can go to employee services next.
Yeah, so I'll be covering employee services as well. So as I mentioned with finance services, the increase here, it does reflect the reallocation of those positions from finance services. So the finance and employee services director, as well as the finance employee services coordinator, those positions will be fully allocated and budgeted here in the employee services cost center. The 2.5% organization-wide COLA, that's reflected here as well. For benefits, we do have the 10% health insurance increase, as well as the 12% decrease in workers' comp. But again, yeah, the salaries and benefits, those have went up, and that's due to us just moving those positions here full time. As far as operating expenditures, that is up 47%, but this reflects a strategic investment in workforce development and staffing capacity. So we've increased training here, education, and then new hire expenditures. So We have implemented these for employee retention, onboarding, as well as some skill advancement there. So the majority of the increase there is really just for our new hire expenditures, as well as some training and education.
Mr. Jones, I had stepped out for a minute. Did you cover at the beginning of finance how in fiscal 28 you envision combining the two cost centers?
Thank you for reminding me. Yes. So this is the first step. So moving the positions over to employee services to keep those, before we had half positions, half in finance and half in employees. So as we move them the full-time to employee, we plan on actually combining the finance and employee services. And that will help us additionally with the finance software, because there is going to be some HR incorporated with that as well. So combining the two departments and the cost centers will help us to be more efficient. So that's where we plan to move for 28.
And when we say combining the two departments, that means on paper, because technically it's one department.
Yeah.
It's currently a department that we've for years tried to split out on paper, and feedback that our own analysis plus feedback we've received from the external auditors, it's better you just combine this.
Just keep it in one.
Yeah.
Okay.
These new roles that you're talking about, are they fitting into the existing pay scale in terms of like their levels? Is each new role like the director of finance? Okay, I see. So these are these new, are they new roles, or they're just roles that we haven't filled before? They've always sort of existed.
So the director of finance and employee services, that's Mr. Smith. So that role has existed, and it's on the pay range plan, and it's been there. So it's just, we used to try to divide him out and say he spends this amount of time on this and this amount of time on that. And we currently don't have a good way to track that. And the auditors have recognized that, and they said, for what it is, you should just have this as one department. And if you look at our charter, it's one department.
Okay, thank you.
You do get one of those little chess clocks up, doing this now. Okay, wait, I'm done now. Back over here on this one now.
We'll put that in the budget. Chess clocks for employees.
That way you can tell how much is finance and how much he's doing employees.
Okay, next, if there's no other questions, we'll go to development services.
Mr. Shelton, who's running the meeting virtually, if you could cover your significant changes, and there are some here.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the public.
Good evening.
Yes, so I'll begin with the salaries under significant changes. So we were just speaking about the new positions or potential new positions, and development services includes two of those. So in our salaries portion of the budget, we have an increase of 64%, and that includes the addition of the Main Street manager and an economic development coordinator. Both of these positions are designed to strengthen business development and revitalization efforts. There was also a transfer of the special projects coordinator position. Previously, it was shared between public projects and services, formerly known as DPW, and development services. And as the town manager was just saying, they are consolidating headcounts. And so in total, development services is seeing an increase of 1.5 on their headcount, and that's because of the Main Street manager and economic development coordinator, as I mentioned. The commercial base, the accessible base, the growth of the commercial accessible base has been something that the staff have been keeping a close eye on, and trying to figure out new ways to encourage growth of our commercial accessible base. And the Main Street manager / events coordinator and the economic development coordinator, they will be working directly with businesses. The events / Main Street manager will be primarily focusing on the Main Street Maryland program and helping our Main Street application and our program run in our town center area, but they will also be working with events throughout town and also aiding and supporting business development throughout the town. And the economic development coordinator will be more town-wide and will be working directly one-on-one with businesses to provide them with access to grants, third-party resources, and technical assistance, and trying to aid our commercial sector as much as we can. The benefits has increased, and for the same reason, there is a 1.5 total addition to the full-time employee headcount. And the other items here for both salaries and benefits were both previously mentioned, so I will not dwell on the cost of living or the workers' compensation adjustment. There is also an increase in the operating expenditures to account for the new positions, the economic development coordinator and the Main Street manager, leading to a total increase of 69%. If there are any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council.
Thank you very much. Just in terms of the new positions, are those reflected in the workload measures and the projected performance measures already here?
I'm so sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing.
Oh, sorry. Are the new positions reflected in the workload measures and performance measures in terms of like the expected outputs?
In the projections for the next fiscal year, I was a little conservative on that right now. I wanted to see how things were to play out before I became too ambitious with the projections. So right now they're there, but they're very conservative.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
If I could add one general comment.
Sure.
So as it relates to our projections on healthcare, please know that any position that we have that's not currently filled, any new positions, we budget that they will have family plan insurance.
Okay.
So, because they may.
Right.
But if they don't, then that goes to revenue net operating expense at the end of the year, which then gives us money to put towards CIP or economic development or community development. Gives the council an opportunity to make those transfers.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I have
Yes.
one. I'm just going to keep this as an observation and a comment. First off, and this relates to in what you're presenting here, this kind of relates to what occurred this past Wednesday and what can occur going forward, being that town manager, assistant town manager, development director came out and spoke with Riverdale Park Business Association. I came in on the very tail end of the presentation by town, was there for the question and answer part. And a lot of what I'm seeing here and what's being set up, it sounds like probably coming in the near future, coming back to them, and once this budget passes, explaining to them, really fleshing out for them, what these positions are looking to do, what the town is looking to do, and working with the businesses to reach that. I remember you were saying that what you're looking to do is trying to get a 10% gross in tax revenues on the business side. And I think a lot of businesses are wondering, well, how's that going to be done? I.e., is this more out of my pocket? And what I was saying to them was saying, no, I think it's more about getting more development within the town and getting more businesses in town and growing that way. And I would get some kind of nods like that, starting up and down, but then just kind of bouncing all over. As you know, I mean, as we all know, one of the things that we are asking folks, when they're coming to town is, if you come here, if you set up here, if you live here, you're going to be able to grow. You're going to be able to evolve your business, grow your business, be able to have a good family life here. Any number of things to be able to grow personally, just based on how we approach living in this community and how businesses can grow and develop here. For the business side, I think what you're going to be doing going forward over the next year, it's going to be very important to really bring this to them, bring this to the new property owners up at Riverdale Park Station. And also, be letting council know, and as well as residents know what we, and I use that to big collective because a lot of their money is helping fund this too, are trying to do to really just enhance life in town.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments? If not, we can go to neighborhood services.
That's also Mr. Shelton. That's the other side of his operation.
Yes, that's my other hat. Yes, good evening again. The Department of Neighborhood Services is seeing less change, I suppose, and so there is a slight decrease in salaries for neighborhood services. That is to reflect a position that's currently vacant, remaining vacant for the first 6 months of the next fiscal year. And this is to help balance the budget. And so that's why there's a slight decrease in the salary budget for neighborhood services for the next fiscal year. That's the same reason for the decrease for the benefits budget as well. And for the overtime premiums, there was a decrease, and that was to reflect the historical utilization of overtime. This is to more accurately reflect what was being used and is still well above what was actually utilized, and it's just a slight adjustment. Otherwise, there are no other significant changes to the Department of Neighborhood Services, but I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns about this department as well.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
So just as a general comment, so when I first spoke with the council and the community at the state of the town about adding positions, I said we're making other changes as well. And this is one example of where we have a vacancy. It's been vacant for a while now. We need to fill the position, but it's been hard to recruit. So, but in balancing the budget, it's like, well, let's keep doing what we're doing, and we'll delay the hiring until January. And it's all about finding that balance. And I told the Councilmember Lingua may recall this when I was being interviewed. I would never propose a position that we can't afford and that we don't absolutely need. And I've lived to that, and the town needs to, long after I'm gone, need to live with that or to that. And so this is part of finding that balance. We contract where we need to, and then we expand where we need to. And that's new for municipalities in some areas. But the days of a job always being there in government work, that's no longer true. and it can't be true. We have to be flexible, and we have to change with the times. We have to see a need and figure out how to do it. And this is part of that balancing act.
Thank you.
That's a challenge to do. It's
It really is, sir. And a lot of thought goes into this. A lot of long nights figuring out how we're able to do this, and with less resource, because we really need this other resource.
right.
And I think it highlights the staff position that we really need to expand our economic development. Mr. Shelton spends half of his time on economic development, but he's the only person. And so if we expect more than a minimum growth in our commercial base, it's going to take effort, and that effort costs money. And so we're trying to find the right balance there.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
I'm looking under vehicle and transportation, the cost of gasoline and oil, and there's nothing. Is that because we are operating fully an electric vehicle for the neighborhood services positions?
Mr. Shelton?
Yes, there was certainly no gasoline and oil because of the new electric Ford vehicles. And then we've also had a significant decrease in the vehicle repairs and maintenance because of those new vehicles as well.
That's awesome. I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have community events, section 10.
Yep. Good evening again. We're going
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about community events. There are really no significant changes with the exception of some additional funding that was put in for public safety outreach events. So in the last budget cycle, we had made some pretty substantial increases in funding for community events. And so that remains the same, with the exception of the increase in the public safety outreach events. There's lots of exciting things that we do as it relates to public safety outreach, and that those efforts continue to grow over the years. There is no change in the public art programming for this year. And if you'll recall, last year there was a little bit more of an increase related to public arts overall. So there were no substantial significant changes, with the exception of the increase in the public safety community events line item.
No centennial celebrations this year.
No centennial this year.
Don't get me started on fireworks. I asked for double.
We're not going to discuss fireworks this year. Can't be an every year thing.
We do have Porch Fest coming up on June 6th this year, which I found out via text that I will be hosting an event for Porch Fest. So
it's
very
really,
nice.
I know this probably isn't the right place,
Was
but it is,
Levon's making his
First band.
first band? Okay.
it's really exciting. There's a lot of grassroots events that have really started. People are taking advantage of the community spirit grant opportunity, and Porch Fest is really exciting. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this pans out. But that will be another town-supported event, so we will provide whatever resources we can. But it's really a fantastic. I'm very
That's
excited
June
about it.
6th.
June 6th,
Okay.
yeah.
So have they
Already procured 21 bands, I
Amazing.
found.
Wow.
So that's really neat.
Really fantastic.
So is I know this might be going off a little bit on the road, but are we working, or is the town coordinating with who's setting this up?
We have residents. This was literally grown up
Okay.
to residents.
So
that are
you're
doing it.
okay.
Yep.
Have they spoken to you about wayfinding?
Have not yet gotten into the wayfinding yet. They've set up a website, which I just received some information about that. And then we saw the flyer recently, but it's really growing quickly. So we'll be meeting with them and supporting the residents however they need the support. We are trying not to overstep to let the process play out naturally, but yes, we'll be helping with all of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
It's exciting. Very exciting. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks.
You know, I love to talk. You could get me going on events, but that's
Six,
exciting.
Porch Fest.
Very exciting. And that's the week before Trolley Trail Day. So June is always a very busy month for
Yeah,
events.
that it is.
Very, very busy.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, got off topic there.
My bad, Jess.
No, it's good. We could have been talking about almost anything else. So that was probably the highlight of it. No, that makes sense. Any other questions about community events? Okay, let's go to the last topic of community grants.
Okay, also so talking about the community grants, line items or cost center for fiscal year 2027, there were no, significant changes. The only increase, that we had planned for was in the social concerns, area of the budget, and that was to provide a greater donation to, for the, Thanksgiving food baskets. The cost of food is obviously increasing every year, so we try to increase that each year, the town's contribution to that really important program. So everything else remains the same. Yeah, I don't have
Can I
any
ask a quick
additional.
question?
Sure.
The farmers market dollars program is not under this. Which category is that again?
So the Farmers Market Dollars Program is funded through the Economic Development Fund.
Yeah.
Mr. Shelton,
Yes.
referring back to the Economic Development Fund, do you have some funds anticipated to go to the farmers market dollars in fiscal year 27 in the event that it's needed?
We do have funds available. Yes. Yes. Trying to find uh,
And that's okay, Mr. Shelton.
okay.
We're transferring a total of 200,000 in. Now that's for a variety of things, 189 or 198,000 is going in. And I think you had projected expenditures of 140.
That's correct. Yes.
And a portion of that could be used for farmers market dollars, but that's also the different business grants and that sort of thing, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And to provide resources for those two new positions to aid our businesses, because we're expecting more participation in our business grants based on the one-on-one interactions with these new positions.
Yes. Do you recall how much you were projecting may be used for farmers market dollars there out of the 140? Or do you need to get back to us?
I'll need to get back to you. My memory is not as quite as good as yours, town manager. I'm gonna have to double check my number on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you would, if you can make that number available, and I believe we had an inquiry previously we need to get back to the council on in terms of the utilization for when we rolled out the Plus program back in the Thanksgiving time.
Yes.
And so we'll get back to you, council member.
We have a public comment from the public, public comment from the public. Abby, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I first of all just want to say thank you for bringing all of your expertise to this very, very detailed work that I'm sure took many, many weeks and months to put together. In regards to the social concerns line, it's my understanding that the amount that went to supporting members of our community who've been terrorized and threatened in fear of ICE, which includes residents, citizens, and non-citizens. I'm wondering whether or not there is a possibility that that amount could be increased, given that that work is considerably ongoing.
Thank you for the question. Do you have an answer for that? In terms of like, do we first know how much, I can't remember off the top of my head how much we went and we made donations. But any update on that? Yeah.
Yeah. And so that came out of the undesignated social concerns line item, which remains at $21,500. So that's at the discretion of the mayor and council to determine where that goes. And if you'll recall, in previous years, that was not a fund that was utilized quite as much. This year, we're anticipating that the council, depending on the conditions in the community, may choose to spend the entire amount. And so we continue to budget for $21,500 in fiscal year 2027.
So
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
before you answer, so in terms of the unused funds from previous years, is this something that every year it was, I don't say zeroed out, but we zeroed it out and basically had it funded at the 21.5? Okay.
And that's a relatively new increase. It's been over the last couple fiscal years that we have significantly, staff have recommended a significant increase for the mayor and council's discretion. And that's to respond to changing conditions in the community. We talked a lot about the types of challenges that continue to challenge not just the organization or the town as a whole, but our residents as well. So this gives some flexibility for the mayor and council to determine how they would like to utilize those undesignated social concerns funds.
Mr. Jones, can you easily pull up what the balance is in the current year?
As you pull that up, so
Yes. For 26.
Yeah, we don't have the actual, we have the estimated actuals at the end of the year.
Yeah, so you have an estimate saying that we will expend everything. I was just curious where we are so far this year. And if the mayor and council want to increase this, then what we would recommend is that we make a transfer from one of the funds into the operating budget to cover this instead of looking to reduce the operating budget somewhere else to offset this.
It was on it. Yeah, it's a great question because I know for the 2 years prior that I've been on council, we've struggled with this area. I think vacillating between wanting to have funds available in the case if something happens unexpectedly, but then also struggling to find, well, what, are we soliciting, ideas from the people? Are we actively looking? And so that's why you would see the 3,000 for, 2 years ago, like we haven't necessarily spent the funds. And I do agree that we have every intention to sort of spend the entire amount for this year. So the question is more so if you have an update yet, what it is, and then obviously.
Yeah, so we are currently at 71%. 27,727 has been spent thus far.
You said 27,000?
Yeah, of the 38. The entire, yeah.
That's 8828 undesignated social concerns. Do we have
15,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
69%.
Still have, so 70%.
6,500.
Gone through 70%. 3/4 of it.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. The other thing, so I think it's a question of just like if we would want to increase the funds, how much. I think we have a suggestion in terms of like logistically how to do that. The other area that I've been thinking of is we talk a lot about housing, affordability, and I know College Park has a partnership where they have like a pay your down payment, or they give like some type of grant for down payments but you have to like buy and then live there for 7 years or something like that. And it's sort of like an incentive mainly for professors or so who are sort of moving into the area. But it had me thinking about one, I I've been trying to get numbers in terms of like what they actually spend on it, and they're kind of just like, we'll talk offline, and we're happy to partner with you. So I haven't necessarily know how much money does, if we wanted to do something similar, even partner with them, like how much money we would have to allocate to that in order to be considered serious. Um, and obviously that only sort of helps home ownership, but thinking about housing affordability and assistance in some ways and what's possible. And so we'll have any thoughts in terms of what is feasible or a potential way of doing this, or I don't know if you know any numbers that College Park has in terms of how they're rolling out their program.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, so I'm going to call on Mr. Charlton in a moment. But I think a foundational question for the council is, are you looking to assist low to mod income populations on affordability? Or are you trying to attract professional and read that as white collar workforce? In Hagerstown, we did both because we were trying to attract folks that had disposable income that could then patronize the businesses, but that was in a depressed area, and we don't have, I don't believe we have that issue here. So much so that businesses are suffering because there's a lack of customers for businesses. But we do have low to mod income families that affordability becomes an issue. That includes, we have staff that would fall into that depending on their family size.
Right.
And so one thing that the mayor and council may want to consider, and we currently have a stipend for if employees reside in town. That's something that we started probably like 6 years ago, Gentry, something like that. Where if you reside in town, you get X number of dollars more. And the theory is that then you're able to respond to calls more quickly if it's someone in police or at public works. And actually, we have quite a few folks that work or that reside in town that work for us. So on the College Park program, Mr. Charlton has met with College Park folks. Mr. Charlton, can you give us a brief update?
Absolutely. Yes. And I've met with the city of College, or city, I can get this acronym, the College Park City University Partnership folks, Susan, to talk more about their program. And I actually, when I was working with the city of College Park a little over 6 years ago, I was familiar with the program. And so when the town manager was referencing who would be benefited, the College Park program was designed because they were trying to attract more people that worked in the area to live in College Park. They had an issue where there were new staff members and faculty members from the university moving, but they would be living next to a plethora of university students, which was hard to attract more faculty and staff to live in the area. So that was their need that they found. And as the town manager said, that we have a different need that we're seeing that we suspect in town. And so we actually have been speaking to the College Park City University Partnership executive director, Susan, about a down payment assistance, technical assistance grant where they could receive funds in order to evaluate how a down payment assistance program might work in Riverdale Park. And so they've actually sent in an application for this technical assistance grant, and we're waiting to hear back on whether or not CP Cup has received the grant. And if they have, then we will work with them to figure out the best way to move forward, or if there is a significant need for the town to develop its own down payment assistance program as well.
Thank you. I think it's I appreciate the update and the nuance in this conversation of what are we ultimately trying to incentivize. I know that there are a lot of folks who work in College Park for the university that live in Riverdale Park. And obviously there's a market to try to compete with the workforce who live in College Park to live in our town. But the affordability thing is something that we have talked about as a council, and I would be curious to know what again what's the threshold in terms of that we would need to sort of invest in order to be considered serious in this. I'm not a big fan of we put $20,000 in there and it's like, great, one person may be able to use it and it doesn't really do much. So is it $100,000? Is it more? Is it less? And then obviously there's more questions in terms of how you distribute the funds, and is it only for home ownership? Typically I've only seen for home ownership and not rentals. I know we have a rent affordability as well for some folks. So I think this is something that we, in some ways, uncharted territory for the town, but I think it'd be good to know if we want to go down this path, this might be something we'd have to invest over time. But so to know, hey, you have to build up to $100,000, and if that's the number, it's just randomly in order to be serious about this. We'd love to know, staff, your opinion and thoughts in terms of what that might be.
We would have to have discussions, I think, to further flesh out what the goal of the program would be, as well as to look for external funding. I don't believe that the town can take on a substantial down payment assistance program with our own dollars. What we can do is explore with the county and their CDBG program, and whether or not they can assist us in funding that type of a program if they don't already have one themselves. But that's where I would encourage us to look for outside sources and be the conduit or the coordinating entity to try to help that type of a program out. Because if you are looking at just, let's say 20% as a down payment, right? So, but for low to mod income folks, they're looking at FHA or going with some other loan product. But so even at 3%, 3% of $400,000, it adds up really quick. And I don't think the town has the resources where we could take on that ourselves, but we certainly can look for outside sources. Again, different municipalities have done it different ways. I am familiar with programs where federal funds were used for down payment assistance. So I'll leave it there. We are looking at some other opportunities, Mr. Mayor. I'm not prepared to get into tonight, but we are looking at some other opportunities to help with the affordability in a small way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's probably a great work session conversation about what the goals are, what would success look like, and then obviously how we fund it is another conversation. But yeah, Councilmember.
I think part of what our strength are, well, first off, I'd love to hear when you go up and you get a chance to talk to the folks in College Park about that whole program and the scope and how they do it and everything, and how they're funding and to what extent the university is involved. I think that's a key point right there. I think it's also about looking at like where we as a town can be strong at. Now, we're hearing about down payment costs. I immediately start thinking, well, maybe for our size and scope, probably the closest we could come is like closing costs. Or we look at one of the things that we've done that has seemed to have had some success that helps with, you know, the affordability on a broader scale with folks who are in a home. That really kind of just goes across the board for anyone in town who has a home. Is the, you know, the storm preparedness program that we set up, the emergency repair program that we had set up, looking at different programs like that and being able to fund those in a sense then helps, is something that then that's available to help residents throughout town what they're trying to do, you know, tapping in and working with the county, like what Councilmember Foe has always brought up about the rain barrel program, which kind of almost ties in with the storm, you know, preparedness programs that we have. Things along that nature where we're helping folks out along the way in defraying costs for things that they want to do, essentially upfront projects, so that, you know, we're not getting hit with something on a back end. I think one of the things that we've looked at and probably could, if we could figure out more on how to do, is what has been brought up by the Sustainability Committee with the tree canopy program and how we can make that work. You know, or just find a way to tap into that and work with that. Things along those lines, I think, is where we can find a strength and something that, given realtors going out and trying to help some of you thought about looking about here, you know, one of the things that the town likes to do is, as you are in your home there, is, you know, be able to afford you ways that you can help, you know, prepare your property for other things and be able to afford day-to-day stuff, you know, in different matters.
No, it's a good point, and it's something that this area, and there's a public comment from Heather Cronk that she had to drop that I want to read in a second, but I think this area, this cost center, I think is one of the, it has such a high opportunity, right? Because it's grant funding, but we know that we'll have to be strategic about it, because in a perfect world, I'd love this budget to be 10 times the size that it is. But I think to your point about, are there other opportunities to make it, even because we had a public comment in terms of during the state of the town about aging in place and making it more affordable, right? And so some of the things you talked about of not just I want to repair my home and can I get some funds for it, but is there opportunities to make it easier to age in place and age in town? So that's probably a good feasible first step. I'm willing to take your idea instead of mine of, you know, maybe not attracting new people into town, but making it more affordable to stay in town.
Well, I think we should be doing that as well. And I think it's just, I think we just, I mean, again, I'd love to find out how they're doing this program. There might be things there that we can do. It's just a matter of really finding out how they're doing this. And it's maybe something that, you know, we make a push, and say, for example, you come and find out in that the university or the Maryland University system is, you know, part of this program with what they're doing in College Park. And part of the reason they're doing in College Park is because they consider the University of Maryland the, you know, flagship university of the Maryland State University system, Maryland State education system. Okay, well, you know, let's remember how that place got its beginning, folks.
Yeah.
And see if they, you know, would want to extend that program down here as well, being that we're right next door. Good programs make good neighbors.
Yeah, I think it's I've raised that as well. And I think there's a possibility maybe we can think through, even if it's a proportional, you know, hey, we put in 5%, so we get 5% eligibility, like a proportional amount of, you know, I'm not expecting we put 10% worth of the fund and we're crashing, you know, we're cashing out big time, but at least some type of proportionality. I think the big thing is just something new to sort of think through. But let's keep this conversation going.
Sure.
I'll read the comment from Ms. Cronk, who had to leave, but she said, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, town staff, and fellow residents, apologies for having to leave the meeting early, but I have a late standing work call on Monday nights that I had to join. wanted to draw attention to the Social Concerns Fund within the Community Grants Cost Center and the proposed increase in that line item of $1,200 for FY27. Given the increase in hardships that many in the Riverdale community are facing, whether at the hands of ICE, Doge, or any number of federal agencies, I was hoping and expecting to see this line item increase dramatically. Unfortunately, the increase of $1,200 is not sufficient to meet what community members anticipate will be an even more acute need for support over the next fiscal year. I'd like to see this fund doubled in size from 38.5 to 77,000. This is deeply meaningful increase in the members of Riverdale Park community, but 77,000 represents only 0.0059% of the overall proposed budget. Thank you from Heather. So to the earlier point, I think that Abby raised as well around the undesignated social concerns fund, and increasing that as needed. So I guess one thought process is, I guess I'll first say, is there thoughts or support or in terms of like wanting to increase the funds? That's probably the first question. The second is then, is this a new fund, or is the idea just keeping the flexibility that comes from that undesignated social concern and adding more funds to that?
Quick comment. Yes, I'm in support of increasing it, but it relates to my other question about the farmers market dollars program, in my mind at least, because there are a variety of different supports that the town has made available, and we want to make sure we're using them in the best way, I think. So I would personally like to see the amount of all of those supports in total increase. And where specifically the increase is, I don't know yet without that information. That's my perspective, I guess.
So that's perhaps something as we go through the budget, we can identify.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith.
Just expressing similar thoughts. I'm a bit agnostic on sort of the structure of the fund, or, whether we create a new fund or it goes out of something existing. But I think it's important that we, and aligned to our vision and commitment statements, that we provide increased resources for the purposes as articulated by Ms. Cronk and others here this evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. You have a comment too?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines as Councilmember Warson appears. I mean, if we're looking to expand funding, we do have programs set up that we could apply there. We could, take that amount and really look across the board and be able to afford, relief that way as well.
So, I guess this is the challenge of money sits in certain buckets, right?
Yeah.
Because if we were just doing this kitchen table, would be, where's all the money that goes to help people who need it? And what's that pot, and how are we sort of measuring the use of it and easily allocating and moving it around, where, when we were having this conversation and SNAP was not necessarily guaranteed, the food insecurity was like a high thing that came up, right? And so being able to move to that, as that has subsided in some ways, and if there's other things like, is it, we've used a social undesignated area as almost a catch-all, and it can be almost anything. And so my thought process is, if we were going to do an increase, that maybe we start there to give us some flexibility. But I agree, the full conversation of this is more than just what's in this particular item, right? And so but it's hard to tell that story because you have to sort of look across a couple of different budget areas in order to get it's not just, her comment of like $38,000 is, it's like in this particular thing, but we've increased funds in other areas. So I don't know a better way to tell that story. But we should probably have that handy in terms of just like what we think of sort of supporting the town is, it's this total amount. And, we can do the traceability in terms of where it finds in the budget. But I think there's still an opportunity to maybe increase the undesignated area to give the council some flexibility for additional as things come up.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman, yeah, town manager.
Yes. So, Mr. Jones, if you can pull together the numbers historically for the various resident-based grant programs that Councilmember Lingua was referring to, the emergency repair grant, things of that nature, as well as historical information on the Farmers Market Dollars program. Because we stood it up back when there was that issue over SNAP. But the burn rate there, it'd be good for the council to know what that burn rate is.
If I could just two finger that, it would be helpful to see what was budgeted and what was spent, if that's what you're referring
Yes.
to. Okay,
Yep.
just to clarify. Great, thank you.
In terms of the utilization. And so part of this, we also have to, I think there's two aspects that are good to keep in mind. So one, we have folks that have historically applied for grant programs. We have not had the bandwidth to go out and sell those programs. And then you also, that's the one point. And so hopefully now, if you all approve these other positions, then we'll have staff that have that bandwidth on the community development side to sell those programs some more, whether that's increased communications or Mr. Shelton's own work. But the other side of this that I think we all have to think about is how big of a program do you want? Because if you say, oh, we have $100,000 available and you're marketing that, chances are you'll find takers that fit within program guidelines to take that. The town is not set up as the primary social service entity. We've added these different programs to assist residents in need to fill gaps. And I would just urge the council to be thinking about how much of the town do we want to create efforts to assist with things that the county, as the primary driver of all things social services, how much do we want to supplement their efforts? And I say supplement because they are the entity that's to be providing all these things. And the municipalities, when they have folks still in need, can stand up programs to help with the gap or to help with emergency situations. And I think that the council, when we wound down the Farmers Market Dollars program, recognized that we can't afford to pay $300,000 a year in town funds for that. And that's a difficult decision that you all need to make, is how much is what your goal is. Because I will say from my observations, the need will always exceed the allocation if you're selling the program. And so if we were to launch a rental assistance program, whatever it is that you say to put in that, we'll have applications for that. The same with the food programs. So it's really becomes, at what point does the council say this is how much that we're willing to put towards this gap, and to meet folks' needs?
So then is it a matter of just better coordination with county services then?
Well, I think in my experience, sir, it's one, coordination of county services, but it's also coordination of nonprofit services.
Okay.
To avoid duplication of services.
Right.
And that happens in every community. You'll have folks that may go and knock on one place of worship, house of worship, and they may go and knock on the other door. So coordination among nonprofits, houses of worship, that's really important to understand what the need is to reduce duplication of services, better coordination of services. I do think it's a worthy conversation.
Okay.
But I would say that based upon our size and the size of those around us, it'd be a worthy conversation to have, not just with Riverdale Park, but perhaps have a conversation with Hyattsville, have a conversation with College Park. We all are facing the very similar challenges, and what is it that the other municipalities are doing? Because from my perspective, it's not just within the 1.67 square miles of Riverdale Park.
Right.
And that conversation also needs to be had with the county, I believe, to say, here are these needs. What has the county done? And has the county increased, or does the county need to increase their resources so that they're able to assist with such programs? This is complicated stuff, and I just think that for lasting impact, coordination would be really important. Because the easy thing for me, from where I sit, if you all say, "Hey, John, can you find $20,000 or $30,000?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But what does that look like in results? And to Mr. Mayor, to use your words, what would the success look like in administering these types of programs?
Yeah, no, it's a complex issue. I think, as you mentioned, I think there's, to Councilmember Worsnop's first comment about what can we do to identify what's been used in terms of other grants. I think my assumption is the idea of, if no one's using the facade grant as an example, right, can we reallocate some existing funds that we already have to sort of move for like where the needs are in the town? So I think there's, that might get us a little bit. Sort of be good to see the overall trends in that. And obviously knowing that the hope is, we're bringing on staff to like increase the performance of certain things. We shouldn't just see that like no one ever uses, so let's get rid of it. And then we hire a person to like come in and really try to sell and do outreach. So there's a balancing act there as well. But then too, I agree the idea of, this is a shared burden, and where are the elements where we can put enough skin in the game to show that we're serious about it and that we need support from others, rather than just asking, might be sometimes a better conversation. But I know it's getting late. Don't want to sort of like go down here, but I think,
like you're saying before, I think we've got a number of work sessions ahead where we need to talk about this.
yeah, I think my sort of initial thought process is the undesignated social concerns area is an opportunity where we can sort of look to see if we can increase to give us the flexibility, while also thinking about, are there other underutilized grants or something like that we can potentially also sort of flex into, whether it's that or some other area, as a starting point. And then I think there's a long ongoing effort in terms of how do we probably have work to do to engage Councilmember, County Council Vice Chair Eric Olson, to see what can we do, what exists currently right now that maybe the town has not necessarily had as much, we haven't got our fair share of it, and is there opportunities to do more, and does it always have to be a reimbursement type thing, or is there an opportunity to get funds transferred, so we can be creative in terms of what we ask for.
The last question I have for you on this, Mr. Mayor and Council, as soon as possible, it would help the town if you can determine what type of increase you're looking at? So that's the question. Are you looking at a percent increase, and you can give us a percent? Are you looking at a dollar amount that you would like it to be? Because while there's going to be, as Councilmember Linguist said, there's going to be plenty of work session discussions in the months ahead about standing these programs up. If we're looking to increase the undesignated social concerns, we have to have a balanced budget here in the next 4 weeks. And it would help staff if we knew a dollar amount or a percent that you're looking for. Because it may be that we transfer from a fund, but depending on what you're looking for, we may have to decrease operating expenses somewhere. So it would help us as soon as you're able to give us that direction.
Mr. Town Manager, in Ms. Cronk's message, she said 38 to 76, right? Is that the math that she suggested? But we're talking about our access to the undesignated social concerns is only 21.5, right? Okay, I thought doubling that potentially would be a starting point for a dialogue. To 42, potentially, is what I was thinking. Just to throw a number out there for anybody that's doing the math.
And it's Mr. Jones and Jessica and I and Paul who are doing the math. So if that's a number to begin work with, that's what we'll do for right now, and we'll present that as an option for you all.
That works for me. All right, 9:30 almost. We'll leave it there. Same time next week. We'll go into the public safety and the capital improvement program, which is always quite the conversation. But thanks everyone for the comments, the questions. This is really helpful. Thank you. Yes, we are. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Councilmember. Thank you for joining.